Hello and welcome to your daily Google News. A big shout out to our subscriber, Dave Fogel. Dave, appreciate your request. Dave said, I'd like to see a video on top 5 tips to get expected CTR above average. I don't know that I have 5. I tried to think, I even tried to I Googled it because I had 4. And then I was like, well, gosh, I got to find a 5th one because Dave, drew the line in the sand. And the issue is some of what I read I disagreed with. For instance, some of what I read spoke to improving quality score. Expected click-through rate is one of the 3 data points that Google uses to measure quality score. So either there's some cyclical logic there, or folks don't realize how those two things tend to relate or interact. So I'm going to do my best, Dave, and you can decide how well I've done. The very first one, and this, by the way, is very academic. Like, it's something that you probably already know, but I have to say it because in case there are newbies watching or whatever, but you need to have really specific ad groups, meaning the search terms that you're using and the ad copy that you're using specifically need to be thematically connected. And the reason for that is because Google, with expected click-through rate, is guessing at how likely it is that somebody clicks through on your ad. And if you have the broader your ad groups are, the lower your click-through rate will be in direct proportion to the expansiveness. And that's been true with Google Ads. Like getting specific with your ad groups isn't new advice, but you get to decide how granular you go. And it's a balance of risks because there are some disadvantages. So for instance, I'm a Google Ads agency. So I'm bidding on Google Ads agency as a search term. Which incidentally, it's a restricted search term, so we have to do it in a very specific way, and I'm not going to tell you what that is because it was hard for us to learn, and I don't want to arm our competitors. But that aside, Google Ads agency, search term. I'm also bidding on PPC agency, for instance. Well, those could, in theory, be, and maybe should be, two separate ad groups, because the way that I speak to those two things, if you search for Google Ads agency and you get ad copy that says PPC agency, there's a little bit of a disassociation there. Well, that's not what I wanted. You might not understand that Google Ads and PPC are the same thing, or you might not believe that they're necessarily the same thing. And in some instances, they're not, because, depending on how you're using Google Ads, it might not be pay-per-click, which I realize is a semantic argument. But that's all to say that breaking up your ad groups to make sure that you can be as contextually appropriate as possible is one of the ways to improve CTR. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's a balance of risks there. I think one of the biggest ones being your ability to rely on Google's machine learning begins to diminish. And in some instances, that's actually okay. That might be why you're doing it, because you're like, hey, dude, I know better than you do, and I'm going to put all this stuff together because this is what belongs together. But you might not be as efficient with your spend in certain instances. So you get to decide how granular you get. If for whatever reason expected CTR is like the one KPI that you're really focusing on, then you want to go as granular as possible. So that's, take that, put it on a shelf. The next thing I'll say is making sure that your search terms and more appropriately your negative search terms are well sculpted. You want to have negative key terms. And I don't know that I've ever read anything that says negative key terms contribute to expected CTR, but I believe it to be true because the more sculpted, I've noticed, the more sculpted our search term slate gets, the better our CTR gets. I think that's going to be a ubiquitous truth as the campaign grows, as you tenure. The other thing that I'll say is it's interesting because I don't know if I don't know if that was bullet point number 2 or bullet point number 1A. So it's going to be hard for me to name this video. I'm just going to call it the 5 tips. And if anybody wants to yell at me, they can, but you're going to have more than 5. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that your ad copy is contextually appropriate to your search terms. And this got way easier using responsive search ads, by Google's own data point is that responsive search ads improve click-through rate by 5 to 15%, according to Google, which means they have to factor that in to whatever grading mechanism they're using in order to measure expected click-through rate. And so I'd strongly recommend using responsive search ads, not just because it's Google's preference. As a matter of fact, they've removed basically your ability to build expanded text ads the way that it used to function anyway. There's a hack for that. I have another video on it. But what's really cool about responsive search ads is it gives you the ability to arm Google with everything that it would need in in so doing, you're actually helping Google improve your expected click-through rate, because Google will be like, oh, this search term and this, ad copy, they're perfectly aligned. I had something else I wanted to say on that. I forgot what it was. Oh, well. So that's the kind of the ad group discussion. Tight ad groups, well-sculpted keywords, responsive search ads that are contextually appropriate to those keywords. So there's, kind of three that sort of live in together inside of your ads, though. And we'll say bullet point number 4, extensions. You have to use extensions. Which extensions should I use, Qasim? All of them, all the extensions. This is the thing that for some reason folks choose to phone in, which is funny because when you read Google's literature, they're like all in on the extensions. They're all about them. And they're really bullish. When you go through Google's certification and training, they spend like an inordinate amount of time teaching you extensions. So build out extensions and spend some time really investing in them. I've got a whole playlist on our YouTube channel on extensions, so you can go through that and I'll teach you sort of extension by extension exactly how to do it. The next thing I'll say is you have to bid adequately, and that might go without saying, sort of, in an academic environment, but in real life, that's, half the damn time. You're just not spending enough money. And it's, the ecosystem is more competitive than you want it to be. And y'all, I've made this mistake myself. Recently, we weren't getting the lead quality that we wanted. And it's because we were just being a little stingy, because we're so good at everything else. We were just feeling like we could sneak in under the wire, and the market had set the rate and our CPCs were higher than we wanted them to be. And we let ourselves slip. You have to bid into the competitive ecosystem. Otherwise, it's going to hurt your CTR. And speaking of bids, and selling my soul here, but using smart bidding improves your CTR, because using smart bidding gives Google the ability to basically build the mechanism that it wants to be built. Was that 6? Ad groups, keywords, ad copy, extensions, bids, smart bidding. I made some notes for myself. That's all. That's good enough. So, boom. It's kind of 6, but it's also kind of, because 2 of those are like bullet points. So it's also kind of 4. I don't know. I'll get better at this. But I appreciate your question, Dave. I hope this answered it. And if y'all have other video requests, fire them off. If I know the answer, I'll happy to shoot a video. If I don't, I'll make it up. Or pretend I didn't see your request. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know we actually know what we're doing. We shoot a video every single day. So if you want to be notified, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any input, don't hesitate to hit us up in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We get very little human interaction. Thanks for supporting our channel, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.